G'day crew and welcome back. I'm Todd from Toxic Garage Customs and you're watching Toxic Garage Customs. Thanks for joining me. Hey, just a little bit of an update. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. If you're not new to the channel, then you probably recognize the Datsun in the background there. Now, you might have seen me drag it home late last year and go through it and get it running. And I put a video out of a little bit of rust repair as well. Well, at that time, when I was playing around with the fuel tank, you may remember I spilt petrol all over the back of it and then made the mistake of trying to clean all the rust stains from the fuel off with carby cleaner and brake cleaner, and I burnt all the paint off. So what do? You respray it. So I decided I'll just do a closed door respray, and then I took the doors off. Then I took the mud guards off. Well, anyway, what you'll see in the next few videos, because I couldn't possibly squeeze it all into one, is that this guy, girl, whatever it is, it's actually a girl, it's Doris the Datsun. This girl is getting a full external respray. I've already done the roof. I've started sanding it. I've got things in epoxy. So, watch along these videos if you're interested in some rust repairs, some body filler application, a few tips and tricks, epoxy primer, sandpaper grits, painting, preparation, and hopefully you watch it through to the end and this thing ends up fully coloured and looking pretty cool. And there's a few little things along the way that I'm doing to it which will add to it. So, long intro for my videos, but if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. And even if you're not particularly into the Datsun, if you want to find out a little bit about what I'm doing with the bodywork, then maybe it'll be interesting to you. So I might catch you at the end of the video if you hang around. Go and grab yourself a coffee or an adult beverage and catch you then. Okay, so I've started cleaning off the back corner of the tailgate here and the spot over here. And this is a case in you wonder why people do the things they do. This whole corner was body filler. This was the rust patch. It wasn't repaired, it was filled with body filler. Now that's not an uncommon thing. Through here somewhere is where those other little spots were. Over here, so this has been body filler, rust repair, okay. Up here there was a couple of little imperfections. There was a spot just here where it was raising. This whole panel is just masked with body filler. So there's a big bulge in it there, which might explain it. But the whole thing, I think they've tried to make the panel straight rather than work with the curves. Now, I could shoot myself in the foot here. I might end up having to put a fair bit in because there is a bulge in it there. But this here, to give you an idea, if I hold this ruler across here, there was about 4 or 5 millimeters of body filler through there. So, needless to say, there's a lot of dust. But I'm exposing all that. This here, I'll just grind it flat so I can make a template of it more than for any other reason. And the same over here. But again, not really finding any surprises here, other than all the body filler, which isn't really a surprise. I dread to think how much is in here. Oh, incidentally, I'm using a strip wheel on my grinder. I started off with a sanding pad and it was just not working, so I'm using the strip wheel. It doesn't take away the metal. It leaves it like this, but it doesn't actually grind the metal away. Check it out. So I didn't intend to strip it back this much, but because there was little imperfections in lots of areas, I decided I would, and I'm glad I did. You know why? It's actually pretty good. So starting off, this spot here, that is where there was a little bit of a fault in the paint coming through, and you can see there's rust there, so I'll have to treat that. Down here, that's where the main rust was. I thought the skin was actually laminating off, but it wasn't. It was actually just the body filler that was coming off, so that's okay. Up here there was a little bit of fault here and there, all gone. Just ground it off. I'll phosphoric acid the whole lot, mainly to treat this, and I'll get in there with a bit of a wire brush and clean it up as well. There's a dent, a raised point through here. Not sure why. We'll work with that. Nothing along the bottom here, that's all good. Obviously that corner there. a little dent there, or there's a bulge and a dent. I would say it was creased through here when it was hit, bulged out here and there, so you can see someone sort of tapped it in with a hammer. But there was a fair bit of body filler, just going back this side. This was all filled with body filler, and really none of it was necessary. I don't really understand why people go down that path. They did this, and the whole thing was filled with body filler. Over here, as I said, there's a big bump through here. I'll try and bang it in. So there's also previous surface rust there. A few little spots, so I'll go through and treat it. Up here, I've gone up just past the badge line. As I said, there's a dent there. But overall, and I can't see anything else along the rest of it, other than overspray and stuff. So this tailgate is actually surprisingly much better than I thought it would be. So I'm going to template here, and a template here. I'll replace it all the same way. I'm sure that there's rust in the main skin behind there, so there'll be a couple of little rust repairs there, probably the same over here. And in fact, I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can even see it through here. So that's okay. That's not a drama. I had to take the lock and everything out. And the latch, I didn't have to take them out, I took them out so I didn't damage them with the grinder and so they didn't get in the way. And the reason I've stripped all this back and all this is because I know that I'm going to be working on this to panel beat it, and same with this. And I'm going to be doing a little bit here and over here. This is not so much a drama because I don't think I have to really do anything up there. But I wanted to take all that body filler off. I wanted to see what was underneath it, and I'm glad I did because there was nothing underneath it. But over here, I've stripped the whole area back because I'm working on this corner. I'm working on this, I'm going to be working on this. I can see this whole area being treated with body filler. So there's no point doing part of it and not the rest, so I've taken it back to bare metal. It'll just be easier. And yeah, I may end up having to take more of the panels back to do that as well, but we'll see. Another step closer. So I've made a start on this side. I tried a bit of heat shrinking up here, putting some heat on it and then quenching it with water to try and shrink it. I've never done it before, and I probably need to practice before I do it again because it didn't work. Now, I think I've got this a bit better, or it could be a bit worse. Don't really know. But back on this. So I cut the, I made this up, made a template, made this same way I did the door. If you didn't see that, then go back and have a look at that. It was just recent. So I've made this up. It's got a couple of little dents in it. That's okay. That's what body filler's for. And I have got it all fitting nicely. So this isn't a 90-degree corner. It's a little bit less than a 90, so I had to make sure that I met that. It's about a degree out, but that's okay. I'll be able to work with that. And as expected, behind here is rusted as well. So I'm going to replace this corner. I've cut through there. Going to replace this corner with new metal, and I'll do it exactly the same way as I did the outside part. I'll template it, cut it, put it in, and away we go. What I wanted to do was to make sure that I had this patch fitting really well before I cut that off, so that if I replace this exactly as it needs to be, then this should go back in nicely. So we'll cut that out, or we'll template it, make a new piece, cut it out, put it in, all that sort of stuff. So that's coming along nicely. So I made a template, and all I really did was just recut the template that I'd made for the corner. And then I realised I probably didn't even need to do that. I have got it. But all I decided to do was mark out where I was going to cut it off, and then got the piece over here, and I've laid it down on top of what I was going to cut out originally, and that's the piece. So I'll just cut out exactly that, and it should fit back in. So I'm really happy with the way this is coming along, but as something a bit different, when I'm in the garage, quite often my wife brings me out a cup of coffee. Well, look at this. Apple crumble and ice cream. I reckon I'm going to have to stay in the garage more often. Maybe it's a hint. Not sure. What do you reckon? Yum. Excuse me. Got any on my mouth? Okay, So I have made this piece, and that will go in there. So we'll weld that in, and once I've welded that in, we can weld that in. We might, actually it doesn't look too bad in there. It's got to say put phosphoric acid in there, but I really don't think it needs it. I can put it in from the inside if I want anyway. So we'll get that welded in. We might throw a bit of weld through primer on things, and then that corner will be welded. More apple crumble and ice cream. Okay, quick test fit, got that in there. Got a couple of spot welds there, just holding it in place. So I'm happy with it, fitted well. Got to continue welding. Then we'll grind it down, and we're done. Okay, so I've got that welded in. I'll clean it up a little bit more, but it's all in place. It's coming up well. So what I've noticed is that this panel, it's got a bulge in it, and it's popping out a bit. So what I'm going to try and do, when I weld the new part in here, after I've primed it and so on, when I weld the new part in, I'm going to try and push that in a bit, where my thumb is, to try and hold it in there. It'll either work or it won't, but I'll give it a go. Pardon me, I'll give it a go. Okay, and that's it all done. I think it came up all right. There's a couple of tiny little high spots there. Nothing worth worrying about. I'm not even going to bother trying to tap them down with a hammer. A very light smear of body filler will fix that. It does sort of curve off a bit here in the corner, which it doesn't do on the others. Oh, actually it does do it. It does sort of curve off on the corner. I thought it was something that I'd mucked up. But it closes well. So, looks really good. I can see there's a bit of work needs doing here. Closes there. And the line seems to follow down well. In fact, it's better than this side. This side sticks out, so I'll correct that at the time. So I'm happy with that. I didn't end up painting it on the inside. I'll worry about putting something in here. I've got plenty of access there. So we have, it's all welded, closed up here. Looks all right to me. No rust. Rust be gone. So Doris has been sitting around in here and outside for a few months now, and because I'm working on other things, Sam and I generally working on other things, there's all sorts of dust and crap in the air, sanding dust and grinding dust and whatever it may be, just general dirt. So all you've just seen me do is really just give this a wash. Obviously I didn't use a bucket and sponge type wash, but it was it had all sorts of dust and stuff on it, so I've just cleaned it off. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I think it's a good place to start for it to be clean. I'm going to go through and I'm going to put epoxy onto various spots where I've uncovered and I've fixed rust and all that sort of stuff, as I explained, and areas where I'm going to be still putting body filler on. So I've just gone through and given it a clean. I will give it another clean. All I was using was literally just a household cleaner, and as this bottle says, it says cleaner. It's literally just a heavy duty cleaner, like a handy Andy spray and wipe type thing, but I bought it in a 4 litre bottle from the hardware store. Sprayed it on, cleaned it with a rag, wiped it off. Ideal? No. Working? Absolutely perfectly. I don't want to hose it, I don't want to take it outside and wash it because I've got body filler on it. Only small patches, but what I don't want is that body filler absorbing moisture. Body filler is very porous, it'll absorb moisture. I paint anything over the top of it, it will come out. So I've got more work to do. I've got other rust and little areas I need to fix all over the whole car. I also took the chrome strips off the roof, which is it just makes it a more thorough job. I'm not going to be removing the windows. I guess I'm doing a closed door respray on this, but I'll probably open the doors. And what I mean by that is I'm not taking windows out, I'm not taking doors off, I won't even take door handles off, quite frankly. Not taking the windscreen out. I'll mask it as best I can, which is generally pretty good. I have taken the windscreen wipers off, but not taking the actual mechanisms out. I will be painting across the radiator support here. So this area here, I think it looks really horrible. and so does the engine bay. And I suspect that the engine bay will get a coat of paint, even if I don't want to do it. And the reason I say that is that it looks ugly, it'll do my head in, but I'm probably going to have to pull the engine out and put all gaskets and things through it at some stage. So, and I've got a clutch for it, which I don't know if it needs it or not, but I might put it in. So if I do that, I'll probably give it a real quick clean up and paint in the engine bay, which will change the appearance of the car when the bonnet's open incredibly. Underneath the guards, all that sort of area will all be painted just in a satin black or a flat black, and so will underneath. Not to hide, to make it pretty. So, as I said, given this a really good, actually I've given it a quick clean. What I will do is give it a really good clean, and I'll probably use glass cleaner this time. Now, I actually learnt this trick from Bad Chad, and if you're not familiar with Bad Chad, then check him out. Window cleaner, why? Because, well, it leaves windows spotlessly clean. So I look at it this way, and he's never really explained it, but I guess if you clean something with window cleaner, then what you're leaving behind is a really, really clean surface. So I'll do that, but then before I put any sort of paint on this, primer, or paint of any kind, I will use wax and grease remover as well. Because what I don't want to do is sand contaminants into the surface of the paint. So whether it be wax, oil, just dirt and grit generally, I don't want to sand that into the paint and then have it underneath my paint, because it's not going to be perfect, is it? It's not going to be perfect anyway, but it's not going to be a nice clean surface for the paint to bond to. There'll be impurities there. So it doesn't take much to give it a good clean. Now I've said it before, I'm not a painter, I'm not a shop or anything like that, but I just believe that cleanliness is the key to success. Preparation, the better you can do that, the better the job you're going to have. Every car I've ever painted, which, I don't know, in various forms would be around 10. I've done some pretty custom stuff, I've done some motorbikes and so on. Nothing has ever failed. It's always come up better than my expectations, and thankfully every job I've done has been better than the previous one, because I can tell you, the first couple of ones when I look back on them when I was a kid, I wasn't even 20, were probably not that great, but I was happy with them. So I'll keep cleaning, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put epoxy on that. That is not surface rust, that is from phosphoric acid. It was bare metal and I treated it so that it doesn't flash rust. So I'll give that a clean off, and I can put some epoxy on that, and then there's body filler work to go onto it. There was some rust repairs there, check the videos out. On the door here and the mudguard, rust repair work, did a fair bit on the guards actually. So I'll epoxy over the top of the body filler, then it will seal it, and I won't have to worry about it getting wet then. And what I may do is, once I've got all those areas sealed up, the bare metal areas and the body filler areas, then I may actually give it a proper wash, just with like a really good detergent, rather than the window cleaner. I'll see. It's raining outside constantly a lot at the moment, so doing it inside is not a bad idea. Oh, this is the other guard. I still need to give it a clean, but you have probably seen the video of me doing the rust repairs on that as well. So it needs epoxy, on it, and then I'll check out the quality of my body filler repairs, and I'll probably go over them with a skim. Okay. I watch a lot of YouTube, and I hope you do too. You're obviously here, so you're watching some YouTube. I find it a fantastic place to learn things. Now, not just watching one video, but watching multiple videos. And professional videos are great. Home handyman videos are great, like me. That's me. I'm a DIYer. The reason being is that the professional videos will tell you the right way to do it, and even they've got varying opinions on how to go about things. Guys like myself will give you the tips of what we reckon works and give it a go. So don't ever bank on what I say being 100% right, but what you can bank on is that I don't rush into it. I do a lot of research, YouTube, product guides, speaking to professionals and so on, before I go rushing into it. But I'm not a professional, so let's make that clear. The reason I'm saying it is that some of the advice that I've got from restorers, where the project might take years to do or months or whatever, and you can't just, it's not collision work where it comes in and it's out within a few days or a week or a couple of weeks or whatever it might be. Restoration work, I more put what I'm doing on the level of restoration work. And I don't mean as far as quality goes, because I'm not a concourse restorer or anything like that. But the fact that I'm working on this, and then I'm working on that, and then I'm working on that, and then I'm working on something else. I'm not staying on the same job. So the reason being is the bare metal and my primer, my body filler and so on, I'm going to seal it so that once it's sealed, then I can walk away from it and not worry about it. Epoxy primer is waterproof. So if it gets wet, it's not a big issue. I will have to re-sand the epoxy primer before I do anything over the top of it. The particular stuff I'm using, Epo 55, and I'll show you that later, it cannot be painted wet on wet anyway. So you paint it on wet means I can paint it, and then you've got this window of, let's say, 2 or 3 days or a week or whatever, where you can go over it with the next coat of paint without actually having to sand the epoxy back. Now that's a huge time saver. The epoxy I'm using doesn't allow me that, but I don't really care because I'm not going to be priming it and sealing it and then going and putting top coat on it within the next couple of days anyway. My availability of time just doesn't allow for that. So it's a good product for me as far as that goes. So the other thing that I've learnt from all my research and so on is I'm not going to try and tackle this car in one hit. I'm going to do it patch by patch, panel by panel, and not get overwhelmed by it and complete it is the plan. Because I know a lot of people start things and don't finish them. In the past, I've been guilty of it. These days, I just take my time. I've got this stuff. This stuff's been floating around for ages. I'll finish it. I'm just not putting a time frame on it. I enjoy it more that way. You might just be working on one car. That's fine. If you don't have a reason to have it finished in a time frame, just enjoy it. Take your time. So this thing, I'm going to do panel by panel, patch by patch. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put epoxy over the areas that I've already put body filler on, and I'm going to put epoxy over the areas like the tailgate where I've got in bare metal, and then I can go to the next step. And after I've put body filler on the tailgate and I've sanded that, then I'll put more epoxy over it and protect it, and so on and so forth. That's why I'm doing this. Another really good reason to clean the car. You can get up close and personal with it and learn about it. So I can see by looking here, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see because it depends on the light, but I can see body filler right there that has not been feathered out well. So I know that there's body filler in there. I know there's a dent, but if I look really close, if I zoom right in here, the quality, oh, got a fair bit of strobing there. Sorry about the strobing, I'll stop it in a second. What you see there is the quality on the paint on the roof is just horrible. It's got crazing and it's got humidity bubbles. Now I'm going to have to take that right back, possibly to bare metal. There is other faults within the roof for sure, but if I paint over that, I can just expect failure. The rest of the body is not the same. The rest of the body, well, from what I've seen, is not too bad. But even this corner on the roof here is not too bad. And like in the camera, it might not look too bad with the the fluoro lights there and so on. But it's I wouldn't paint over the top of it. It's going to fail. So I don't know whether there's been fry up there, incompatible paints. It could be something like that. It does look to me like it was damp, so it got damp maybe in the primer stage, and while it might have appeared dry, I think it's escaping and it's bubbling up underneath. So I guess washing it, giving it a clean, you can learn the finer details of what you're working with. Righto, as usual, I wasn't able to stick to the plan. So while I said I was only going to prep the mud guards, well, things have changed. I have sanded not all, but a lot of the Datsun. So you can see all the various patches. Little areas like this, for example, where there was a deeper chip, and then there was some spots of rust. I can see there's a bit of body filler here from previous repair. There was a few little spots of rust, so sanded those down as flat as I can so that there's not too much lipping between the new and old surfaces. Abrading everything within an inch of its life with 80 grit, going through a lot of 80 grit, I have to say, a lot of 80 grit. Doing with an orbital as much as I can, and doing a lot by hand. Haven't done this panel, I've done a part of it, haven't finished that panel yet. Haven't done the seals, haven't done the bonnet or the hood. Have done part of the tailgate, actually done the tailgate. Haven't removed the bumper bar or done that. But as you can see, it's getting sanded. So I just got carried away yesterday, basically, because what happened was I was intending just to get the guards prepped up so that I could get some epoxy primer on them, and I mimicked, no I didn't, I mocked, I jinxed myself is the word I'm looking for, by saying it was a nice sunny day, and then it started raining, and raining and raining and raining. So I just kept going with this thing. So what I'm going to do now, because the sun seems to be shining, this is the next day by the way, sun seems to be shining, I'm going to chance it and at least try and get some epoxy primer on the mud guards, and then if I get really excited then I'll mask up the majority of the car, and I might get this door in and I might get the tailgate in. Now I also realised that I actually don't have much epoxy primer, so I've got to go and do a supplies run in a couple of days. So I'll get done what I can get done today. Having trouble speaking. Let's do that. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm just going around and I'm masking up. I don't know how far I'm going to get with the epoxy with what I've got, so I'm rather than having to mix it up and then clean the gun and wish I'd done more and so on, I'll try and use everything that I can today. So I've put the mud guards out there. I'm hoping that it doesn't rain, so they're just outdoors. I'll give those a lick out there. I'm going to paint this in here. I'm going to end up with overspray on stuff, but I'm sort of making the decision that I don't really care. I've masked around the window. As I said, I'm doing a closed door respray on this. I will probably paint inside the door jambs and everything eventually, but what I mean by that, and I don't know if it's the right term, I'm not taking all the windows and everything out. I'll take out what I can easily. Tried to take out one of the tail lights. It looks harder than it needs to be. Took the lens off thinking I might be able to get it out. Can't see any bolts on the back. I think I've got to remove other things to remove other things. It's not going to happen. Just going to mask up around them. What I'm doing, I'm masking up the roof at the moment, so I'm just choosing a line underneath the drip line here. I will paint everything eventually, and it's a decision that I'm just making just to go straight across here. I'll end up with a hard line. I'll have to feather that out. This is just a primer anyway, but I've masked up under the drip rail. There is a chrome strip that goes along there. But as I said, I will paint under there eventually. I've got to stop and start somewhere. I can't do the whole car at the moment. So what I'm planning to do, I'm going to do the roof, I'm going to do the tailgate, I'm going to do the mud guards, and I may or may not do where I've repaired near the headlight. So I'm just going to, this is just a bed sheet. If this was finished paint, I'd be taking more care than this, but this is primer. So I'm going to go along, and I've got some brown paper there, this stuff. I'm just going to put some mask, or I've got some plastic sheets as well. This stuff's pretty good. You can get this from paint supply places, but you can also get it from just a hardware store. So you pull it out, and it's already got tape on one side, and then it drops down and it's got plastic. And this one's only about 550 mil wide, but I've got one that's about 1.8 meters wide as well. So I'll probably use it and just drape the side of the car. I'm not worried about getting overspray on the car. I don't want to get overspray on the glass and the rubbers in particular. I really don't like getting overspray on the rubbers. So that's what I'm going to go through and do there. The rubber on the tailgate here is completely shot, so I don't really care. I've got to do the underside later. I really don't care about it at the moment because I'm going to have to replace it with something. I'll probably just use a generic thing from Clark Rubber or something like that. So yeah, I'll go through and mask it all up. Put you back on front. Any questions, just ask. I should also say that when you get masking tape, get a good quality one. Don't just get that cheap stuff from the hardware store. Get an automotive masking tape. This stuff prevents bleed through of the solvents and so on that are in the paint. And when you peel it off, you end up with a nice crisp line. And just to emphasize on that, really spend your time getting your masking as good as you can, because it makes the difference between a job that looks okay and a job that can look much better because you haven't got paint all over your rubbers and your stuff like that. What I have done, I'm doing a two-stage thing. Again, don't really know the correct term for it, but I'm taping the edge first, and this is, what's this? It's probably about 3/4 of an inch, so about 17 mil or something. I'm taping the edge first, and then what I'm doing, I'm going back, and so when I did this window, I taped up all around with the detailed masking, get it as good as I can, and then I had an initial layer that I could work to, and then I put the tape there and I taped it again separately right the way around. So I've got a good clean mask, and then I've got the bulk of it done. So I've got a good clean line through here, and I'll show you around the windscreen to show you what I'm talking about there. I'm just going to stop partway down this pillar. Again, I'll have a hard line. I'll worry about that later. I've got to stop and start somewhere. So I've just done across here, and so I've gone right to the edge of the rubber really neatly. And you can use a Stanley knife or a razor blade or something just to get it really crisp and clean. And there's different thicknesses of tape as well. So if you need really tight curves, get a thinner tape. If you're doing a whole bunch of bulky stuff, then get a wider tape. I've got some 2-inch stuff there as well. So let's get this side draped. I guess perhaps I could have read the packaging better. That's not 1.8 meters wide. I've changed my direction somewhat, and the reason being I forgot that I needed to do this door. So what I'm doing is I've masked everything that I don't want to get the epoxy primer on. I don't really care if it gets on this panel just here because it's going to be painted anyway, but I haven't sanded it yet. I'm probably not doing the best practice here. I should have the whole thing prepared and then paint it, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm being impatient. but that's okay. It's my car, it's my life. Don't judge me. So I'm prepping this part here, got the door handle done. Some people just paint over their door handles and things and then clean it off with solvent later. I don't really like doing that. I just find it takes longer than masking it up in the first place. The door lock, I just laid a couple of sheets of masking tape over it and then cut around it with a Stanley knife cleanly to the rubber. I've got some drop sheets hanging around, so I'm just going to put one over the engine bay. Because I'm doing this part here, I'm actually going to do, which I have prepared, I'm going to do the cowl in front of the windscreen, so I'll mask the whole windscreen over. I'll cover the engine bay, cover anything that I care about, don't really care about the inner guards. So have all that masked so that I can paint this windscreen wiper cowl. That way I can get that out of the way. And I've sanded up the little part that I took off previously. And I've checked in there, I've given it a reasonably good clean in there. It's not fantastic, I've given it a reasonably good clean in there. There's no rust, and that was why I pulled that apart in the first place. But the reason I brought the video back was sandwich bags. Cheap, easy to get, bag and tag. So I didn't know where my sandwich bags were, so I haven't already done this, but this is all the bolts from when I took the mud guards off. I've just been putting them on the air cleaner. I know they haven't moved. Now they're in a bag. What I'm going to do is tag it. I'm just going to write mud guards. Then, when I'm looking for them, I know where they are. For my international viewers, mud guards are fenders, by the way. So while I'm masking Doris up here, and you've probably noticed that every time I put this back on I've changed how much of it I'm masking, but hey, you get that on the big jobs. Sam is over on Clive, the GMC, and he is for the first time ever applying some fiberglass resin over the top of the welds. He is finding it challenging because it's an awkward product to use and it's a difficult position, but he's doing just fine. All he's really trying to do is seal up the welds with fiberglass so that, and when I say fiberglass, it's fiberglass impregnated body filler, and we've added a little bit of resin to it, the extra resin to it to make it flow a bit easier, and it's going on seamlessly. So he's just going around fixing that up, and then he will give it a rough sand with probably some 36 or 40 grit, and then we'll put body filler over the top of it in the areas that are need be. So he's doing okay. This time I'd say he's doing much better because he's not covered in it from head to toe. Doing well. Well, Sam's in the background there. He's putting some body filler on Clive over the top of his fiberglass, so that's coming up okay. With this, I have done this in a totally unorthodox manner. I should have really just prepared the whole thing and masked it up and everything, because I've done about 85% of the car. Anyway, it is what it is. I've got enough epoxy primer to do it all anyway, so that doesn't matter. I've said that before. What we have here, it is sanded, it's masked, and anything that can stay exposed, if I've got enough epoxy primer, I'm going to paint it. What I do need to do in the first place is a test patch, and I'm going to do it right there to see whether the epoxy primer is going to fry up on my paint or whether I can continue, because I really don't know, but we'll see. Doris looks pretty happy about it. So got that there, got it all prep washed down, got the guards ready to go. Only thing I haven't done is the bonnet. I've got another bonnet. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use this one or the other one, so not rushing into that. Got to get the gun set up. I'm going to clean up some of this stuff off the bench here. That's what happens when you've got 35 projects going at the same time. This is the epoxy that I'm going to be using. G55, grey green, because that was all they had in stock last time I went there. I would use white otherwise. I actually don't know what colour I'm going to paint this yet. In fact, this is where you come in. Please let me know what colour Doris the Datsun should be painted. What colour did you reckon, Sam?
I reckon that half colour, this maroony sort of one around here.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this sort of maroony colour. Yeah. I'm colourblind, so I didn't even know that was maroon. So Sam reckons a colour like that. He also did say Milwaukee red, so this sort of colour. Imagine that. I could paint the whole car up like Milwaukee. Now there's an idea.
What's that?
Don't worry about Lightning McQueen. You could have Milwaukee Datsun. Okay, so comments. What colour? You tell me. Most votes probably won't win, but we'll see. I value your opinion. Enough mucking around. Let's do some work. So here we are at the other end of the video and the other end of Doris. So you won't have seen me get to this stage in the video that you've just watched, but rest assured, I'm up to this stage. And by the time you watch the next video, I'll probably be to another stage. So a few panels hanging around there. I hope I see you back again. And if you got anything out of this video, a like, a subscribe and a share would be awesome. So take it easy, take care, grab a grinder, start cutting stuff.